Cast your mind back to last January, if you would. Justin Trudeau was the Prime Minister of Canada and not dating Katy Perry, at least not as far as we know. Joe Biden was the President of the United States, and we had no idea that Donald Trump's fifth favorite word was tariffs. It all seems like such a long time ago, but take my word for it, that's exactly where we were 11 months ago. And the ripple effects of all of that have played a big part in the political discussion here in BC this year. Our On the Ledge panel is here to talk about that and some of the other big political stories in BC over the past 12 months. Justine Hunter covers the legislature for the Globe and Mail. Katie DeRosa, our CBC News legislative reporter. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Stephen.
Can you believe this has all happened in the same year, Katie?
It's wild. It's been the busiest, craziest year I've seen.
We started the year, Katie, focusing on Donald Trump between his tariff threats, the 51st state rhetoric, BC's move to pull U.S. liquor off the shelves. And here we are ending it with, of all things, softwood lumber tariffs, mill closures, no free trade deal on the horizon between Canada and the United States. How has BC done in all of this, in its own little tariff fight, do you think?
Well, tariffs is not the most beautiful word in the dictionary for BC, but I think it was probably one of the most used words in news copy this year. As you noted, we started off the year worrying about how hard Donald Trump would hit us with his favorite blunt tool. 51st state rhetoric was flying. Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, and California wine was flying off the shelves at BC liquor stores as BC removed its small act of retaliation. David Eby stood in front of the legislature with a big Canadian flag, urging people to buy BC. Then in the summer, the U.S. hit us with the softwood lumber duties, which have been a chess piece in a game that's gone on between the U.S. and Canada for 30 years. So now they're nearly 45%, which the Premier has pointed out is higher than that of Russia. And now we're seeing those the fallout, which is the Crofton mill on the verge of closure. Hundreds in the forestry sector fearing for their jobs. And no deal in sight, with the Prime Minister admitting that, talks are not progressing as they would, and Donald Trump threatening to completely leave CUSMA altogether. Donald Trump has cited the retaliation of taking U.S. liquor off the shelves as one of his planks for what he would like to see reversed. So we'll have to see if BC makes any moves on that. But, so far, all David Eby could do is urge Ottawa to include softwood lumber in those talks, which, we don't even know when they're going to resume. So it's not looking well, and I don't think it's going to get any better in 2026.
And Justine, we've been hearing a lot about Aboriginal title this year, not necessarily in the context that we're used to hearing about it. Some major developments in the courts that have created a lot of anxiety, right up to the Premier's office. I guess it's a watershed year in some ways, but is that good or bad?
Yeah, after tariffs, I'd say this is the biggest story of the year for British Columbia. Reconciliation with First Nations is the linchpin of the government's economic agenda right now, and there has been some positive news. We've got partnerships in mining, LNG, clean energy, allowing those projects to go ahead. But lots of uncertainty and anxiety, as you say, about how the government is managing this file. So more than once, the EB government has fueled suspicion by trying to reform land use laws without a whole lot of public input. That has stirred up some significant blowback from property owners, business, local government. And the province will be having to head back to court in the new year to fight the Cowichan decision. That's the one that established Aboriginal title on privately owned lands. And it's a massive court decision with implications right across the country. And Mr. Eby is having to redraft laws in response to another ruling, this one from the Court of Appeal, that dictates how the province implements the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. So Mr. Eby says he's worried about public support for reconciliation, and he's certainly got a lot of work to do to rebuild that.
And another topic that dominated the headlines again, I mean, it was kind of a flashback to, 2017 when John Horgan said we'll use every tool in the toolbox to stop the expansion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. We've got this war of words between BC and Alberta about whether a new oil pipeline is actually going to happen. And Katie, we know that the MOU from Ottawa for political support has been signed. What's next?
Well, the proposal for another pipeline this year, as you said, it really dominated the headlines, and it was called a lot of things: a fantasy, a fiction, a theoretical, a figment of Danielle Smith's imagination, a public relations campaign, and for a long time during that news cycle, Premier David Eby dismissed it, but was also embarrassed to be left out of the group chat with Danielle Smith and Mark Carney and apparently Scott Moe, kind of like a kid not invited to play at recess. I would say, it led to the Premier's best line of the year, which was when he said on Power and Politics that he feels like he's watching a couple of tourists in sandals walking around the North Shore Mountains, and they're going to need a helicopter to come rescue them. So fast forward to now, the MOU has been signed, but the Premier is saying that he is going to get a seat at the table. He's looking forward to a meeting with Danielle Smith and Mark Carney in the new year. But what's still missing, we don't have a proponent, and Mark Carney has said it won't get built unless there is a private sector proponent. That is really something that the Premier has expressed concern about, is any taxpayer dollars going to prop this up. So we'll have to look for any concrete developments that bring this from fantasy to reality.
Justine, is this kind of a chicken and egg thing? I mean, as you've already mentioned, Indigenous input into this has everything to do with whether the project goes ahead or is successful, or whether it's, stopped in its tracks. You're not going to have a proponent as long as you have that uncertainty. And, to get rid of that uncertainty, you first have to try to get buy-in from all of the nations along the corridor and the coast, with the coastal nations saying, no way, no how is there going to be a pipeline terminal there?
Yeah, but I think Mr. Carney has left all kinds of room for interpretation around what he says Indigenous consultation and consent will be. Is it enough if they have a number of First Nations along the route that are willing to sign on and become partners in this? Or would the Haida First Nation, for example, the Haida Nation is opposed to having those tankers through the North Coast waters. Will they be able to effectively veto this if others are on board? So I think lots of details to be worked out, and there's been a lot of sort of broad statements, but not a lot of specifics here.
And in other resources, Justine, who are the winners and the losers in BC's resource industries this year?
Well, clearly, as we've just been talking about, a punishing year for the softwood lumber sector. And it's large, there's a whole bunch of factors there, but in a large part because they're so trade exposed. 3/4 of our lumber usually goes to the United States. So they have been hammered on tariffs and duties. They haven't got that diversity in terms of their markets, although they've been working at it for a long time. And as a result, we've seen those mill closures and job losses. But mining and LNG have had a good year. The liquefied natural gas sector that we have been talking about here since Christy Clark was premier has finally started up. We've had tankers leaving LNG Canada's export facility in Kitimat this summer, more projects moving forward. And we've talked a lot about the province's hopes for new critical mineral mines, but some of that is starting to land as well. With the Anglo-Teck merger that just got approved by Ottawa, that will see a big British mining firm moving its headquarters to Vancouver. There was the expansion of Highland Valley Copper, and this week Artemis Gold announced plans to expand a mine that they had just opened north of Prince George. So, and we have both the federal and provincial governments now very focused on policies to help growth in those sectors, because obviously they want to see those wins as well.
And Katie, of course, very tumultuous year for the official opposition. We have a party that was a party, then wasn't a party. We have a leader who was a leader who is no longer a leader. We have, could you have anticipated at the beginning of the year that this is where we would end the year?
Well, I hope you don't mind, Stephen, but I'm going to do a little bit of a song. I'm going to do a Justin McElroy and sum up the Conservatives in song.
Okay.
On the first day of Christmas, politics gave to me the BC Conservatives as the opposition party. On the second day of Christmas, politics gave to me 2 MLAs, Dallas Brody and Eleanor Sturko, kicked out of caucus, 3 who left in solidarity, a months-long leadership review plagued by voter fraud allegations, and Russ Stad insisting he's got support. 7 management committee members signed a letter in October blaming Russ Stad for the chaos, but John says he's not going anywhere. Then in December, 20 MLAs signed a letter to remove Russ as leader. One dramatic day of defiance before a tearful resignation. Trevor Halford is interim and a leadership review in the the new year. There you go. That's it.
Yeah. Take that, Justin McElroy. I'm so glad that you committed it to song because now it's going to be so easy to remember all of the machinations of that. Justine, thank you, Katie. That was amazing. Justine, your assessment of opposition politics this year?
I don't think I can top it. I have no song. I'm sorry. It has been we've described it as an ongoing soap opera.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see some changes and some stability in the next year, but certainly this year that it has been a gift to political reporters.
Is the government, Justine, getting the kind of scrutiny it deserves with the opposition in such disarray?
Of course not. And that's a fundamental of a good functioning democracy is to have a healthy opposition. And that's been, a gift to the NDP government as well in that, we were spending a lot of time talking about and chasing Conservatives on what was going on their benches and their internal battles instead of actually looking at how the government was conducting itself. And certainly lots of things that they could have been doing.
And Katie, your thoughts?
Well, actually, I was going to pipe in because I did put this to Trevor Halford in my year-end interview with him. I said, has this distracted from the role of being in opposition? And he denied that. He pointed to wins that the BC Conservative got with, for example, Brendan Day, the rural health critic, pushing for the government to reverse its decision to deny that very expensive medication to Charlie Pollock, the 9-year-old girl with the Batten disease. He pointed to Jody Tour having unanimous support for a private member's bill on perinatal mental health. So Halford was saying that the attention, yes, was paid to the leadership review or leadership tumultuous challenges, but that in the background, MLAs were doing their work and they were getting wins against the government.
All right. Thank you both for all of your time with us this year. We really, really appreciate it. And so glad to have both of you as our panel. Very much appreciate it. You guys have a great new year. Have a great holiday.
Have a great holiday, Stephen.
Take care.
Thank you.
That is our On the Ledge panel. Justine Hunter covers the legislature for the Globe and Mail. Katie DeRosa, CBC's legislative reporter. They will be back with us in the new year.